say this is a pretty fun episode. We are talking about outer space. We are talking about AI. Enjoy. Watch and or listen while we tackle tough and sometimes taboo topics filmed live over drinks. This platform allows us to articulate our thoughts and challenge our beliefs. This is SipTalk. Grab a drink and enjoy. All right, we are live. This is SipTalk, episode 263. My name is Justin DiGiulio, joined by James, the Boswell, philosopher, philanthropist, philatelist, phlebotomist, a man of many PHs. James, how's it hanging?
Dude, I'm sick. It sucks.
Yeah, I think this time of year, I guess there's some pretty bad viruses going around. And everybody's been sick. Everybody's been sick since they took 6 months off from seeing each other during 2020 Corona bullshit.
Dude, I don't know what it is. My immune system is no longer, finely tuned. I had to travel over the weekend, and it was cold the entire time I was there. Drank a little bit too much on Saturday night, and, had to fly back on Monday. And now, 3 days later, the incubation period's over, and I'm paying for it again.
Well, that's because you were getting old. Let me just tease the topic here because we want to. This is a cool topic, actually. We want to get into it. We don't want to lose your attention. So today, if we have it to begin with, today we are talking about dead internet theory. So we'll get there in a minute, but we will just revisit the fact that James, you're getting old, man. That's what's happening to you. Your body doesn't spring back the way it used to.
Dude, I look back at some of the things that I did in college, and a night that I wouldn't really bat an eye at when I was in college. I'm I think that would kill me today.
I've been feeling my endurance slip quite a bit. But on the note of endurance, I have poured myself. I actually brought up a lot to drink here. I got a beer. I got a nice light beer. That's nice because it slows me down in between the liquor. But I poured myself a nice glass of Lagavulin. That's one of my absolute favorite scotches.
Is that an Islay?
Or
is that a Highlands?
I'm not 100% sure. Actually, when I was in Scotland, I had big plans to go out and check out.
Now I want to look it up.
I went out to check it, but it was too far. Getting there was going to be like a day trip, and I just wasn't there enough days. But either way,
Lagavulin is Islay.
I was doing a dry January, and the first 5 days in January, I did a water fast. So I had nothing but water, no coffee, no food, just water. And I got through that pretty easily. And then I just kind of played it out, just continuing a dry January. And, it's been a pretty rough month for me. Those of you who have not been following, my mom passed away. So, we're down to one viewer on this podcast. She comprised one of both of our viewers. No, that was a joke, but she did pass away. So it's been a rough.
I mean, it does have a significant impact on our viewership.
We've lost half of our viewership, literally 50%. But it's been a rough month in that respect. I recently started a new business in October that had a pretty rushed and very fast start. So I've been spending a lot of time and energy on that. And it's just this big confluence of things all happening at once. So, for those of you who are aware of this and have sent your condolences, I really do truly appreciate it and thank you. Those kind of in my inner circle and maybe once removed were pretty aware of this. And we've been off air all month. So I think our last episode might have been the gift guide.
Yep.
Right. And that was a fun episode. My mom did enjoy that one. Actually, she was around for that one. But you're just learning this firsthand. Please don't reach out. I'm good. I don't need the continued reminder and the condolences, but just understand, we had a little slowdown just with some personal things going on, but we are back. We're back off the wagon here. And we're talking about dead internet theory. What else you have going on? I know we had a couple of notes here.
Yeah. All right. So these two are related, although it might not seem like it at first. So I wanted to very briefly just talk about the first 10 days of the Trump administration.
Yeah. Okay. If you don't like Trump, it was pretty miserable and almost world-ending feeling. If you do like Trump, you were like, man, this is some good stuff.
Well, I
And
think that feeling, even for supporters of Trump, is going to be short lived because one of the big things that he tried to appeal to voters on and somewhat succeeded
it's
was
carrots.
inflation and cost of living and stuff like that. And the meme is like cost of eggs. But with him instituting ICE raids all over the place, a number of farm workers and agricultural workers are just not showing up to their jobs. And the price of eggs right now is at an all time high. So cost of, and like and you're going to see this, it's going to take a little while to play out, but you're going to see costs of lots of other things like just shoot way up because like California farms are saying somewhere between like 25 and 70% of their workers are just not showing up.
Well,
And
I mean
California provides a lot of food to the entire
that
country.
that's what happens when you take drastic action very quickly, whether it's for the good or the bad. Like we don't know how this is going to play out, whether you support what he's doing or don't support what he's doing. I think we can both agree we don't have any idea how this is going to play out. It's
Uh,
it's
I'm
just
going to
it,
make some predictions.
it's just a giant move that his fan base and elector base wanted for the most part, and he's doing it, and we'll see how it plays out.
But
It could be pretty catastrophic, but
real quick, I want to hit three things and I want to go through them all fast.
it is certainly very scary if
Like,
you're affected by those things. Go ahead.
so Um, we have his arguably secondhand man because JD Vance is like, yeah, he's VP, but he's not really doing anything. So, like, on the day of Trump's inauguration, Elon gives a Nazi salute, and nobody really bats an eye about it.
Well, no,
Um,
the internet was outraged about it. I have
yeah,
not been
but
paying attention to the news, and I saw it many times. However, I also saw it juxtaposed to people like AOC and
yeah, you
Hillary.
got to watch the
And
whole
I
video.
watched it. I watched it, and it was like people saying that Trump told people to drink bleach. He didn't tell people to drink bleach, and
No,
this
but
was not a
what
Nazi
Elon
salute.
did was on purpose a it was on purpose a Nazi salute. Whereas, like, if you look at like the pictures of Taylor Swift or AOC holding out their arm, that's like part of them gesticulating, and it's one freeze frame where that happens, as compared to a deliberate choice to make an action.
I didn't quite see it that way, but whatever.
Anyways,
That would be
we
something
have
you would
somebody
probably want
openly
to
giving
avoid
Nazi
doing.
salutes,
You would
and
want to
then
probably avoid doing that. Yeah.
in terms of it, and now we're doing concentration camps. I don't know if you saw this one, but they want to build a facility in Guantanamo Bay to hold 30,000 immigrants. So we're doing Nazi shit.
Well, to a degree, yeah. I need to look into that a little bit more because I'm
All
very
right,
curious
last.
how that's going to play out. Go ahead.
So there was this plane crash outside of DCA
Oh
yesterday,
yeah, yeah.
and this comes on the heels of Trump firing like 3,000 air traffic control workers and like 300 people in like higher level positions at the FAA. And then immediately a plane crash happens. And like, I could understand the conservative viewpoint on regulation in certain industries and certain points, but I think one of the strongest arguments for the power of regulation to do good is the FAA. Like, considering how dangerous flying could be and how dangerous flying isn't, like the FAA does a amazing job, and just firing a whole bunch of federal workers that help keep the size safe. Like, I I'm flying out in a month and I'm worried because
I hate flying. I'm always worried.
I hate
But
flying too, but like, and the reason why I'm flying out is I had talked about this before, where I wanted to go to Spain and I wanted to go to Tenerife to explore possibly moving. And I had kind of dithered on it for a while because of the expense and wondering whether or not I was just being hyperbolic. After like 2 or maybe 3 days of watching what like the administration was doing with their executive orders, I said, I need to get on this. So I booked myself a trip to Tenerife that flies out in a month, and I'll be there for 2 weeks. Hopefully, I'll be able to do at least one podcast from there. But
providing
like,
you have the internet bandwidth.
I hope so because I'm going to need internet while I'm there. I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. But
Yeah. All right. Well, very interesting. I'm excited for your trip. I'm excited for you to escape the oppression that you feel that you are under.
if
Uh,
anybody wants to join me, it's an open invitation. I'll be in Tenerife from March 3rd until March 16th.
it sounds like the accommodations are paid for. You just have to buy your own flight. So, ladies,
Yeah.
ladies, keep that in mind. Um, all right. So, should we get into dead internet theory?
Um, Yeah, so I watched a video a couple weeks ago that touched on this, and I decided that I was like, you know what, this is really interesting, and I want to look into it more.
I think we've actually kind of we didn't label it dead internet theory at the time, although the phrase has been around since what, like 2016 or so.
Roughly, yeah.
And we didn't label it that then, but we talked about kind of the uh, I don't know, degradation of quality of information on the internet
I feel
because,
like in the last year it's really accelerated.
well, I don't, you're not on social media as often as I am, but I have seen some pretty crazy videos. And then I like look a little closer and I'm just like, oh, wait, that's not a deep water fish. That's like, it's just a AI generated blob of a fish.
So let's just define what dead internet theory is for people who haven't heard of it.
Well, let me, because you proposed this topic, let me explain it in what I understand it to be, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. But dead
Sure,
internet
go ahead.
theory, the internet as we know it, is a handful of websites and platforms that we visit that have user created content or creator content, as in the person. So web 2 versus web 3 is web 2 is like websites where you can go to and consume that material. Web 3 is where the users are more have more of a role in uploading the content that's on the website. So, for example, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, those would all be Web3 because the consumer is actually creating the content. So, the theory, the dead internet theory, is that AI is learning off of the internet, but also AI is producing content where it is then learning from. So, what happens is because it doesn't create as high quality content, hear me out because it sounds like you want to correct me, but just hear me
Well,
out.
you're missing one really key
Hang on,
point.
but because it doesn't output the same quality of content that it consumes, it's basically like a bad game of telephone that is playing with itself, and then we end up with just an internet that you have no, because it's creating content at such a rate that all of the content on the internet that you can access is just all AI generated content and ends up just being lousy internet and a
Yeah,
lousy
and so
experience.
what I would add is
What's the key point that I'm missing? Because I'm curious
that
on that.
it doesn't it doesn't have to be AI. You have bots that
Or
are
not
not
AI,
really
yeah.
AI that have been that will curate content, that will create posts. Like if you go on Reddit, there's tons of bots there. If you go on any social media website, like Twitter had a problem with it for as long as possible, and probably it's worse now, but like bots that either just tweet out links to things or tweet responses, any of that kind of stuff. And there's entire like companies that just have an army of bots that you can pay to get upvotes or likes or whatever else. You can pay to make it look like you're getting engagement. So I want to get back to the AI in a second, but the idea is like, if you think about the internet as the thing that is created by humans for humans, the dead internet theory says that no longer exists. That the vast majority of things that you find on the internet are either designed or curated or posted by bots and are shown to you by an algorithm that was at one point designed by people, but at this point is no longer really controlled by people. And and when you throw in AI stuff, that's just, I guess, a force multiplier to the whole bot thing.
Well,
And
yeah, I mean, the
so,
bots
like,
run a simpler algorithm, and the
yeah.
AI bots or AI can run a much more complex algorithm and really
And so
play with the
the
end user.
theory is basically, as time goes on, less and less of what you see on the internet was ever touched by a person. And when I,
I've seen the acceleration of this over the last year and a half, pretty steeply.
so when I first heard about this, I immediately thought of Kessler syndrome. Are you familiar
Which,
with that?
I read what you typed up here in our notes, and it sounded familiar. And Kessler has some other. He's known for something else, also, right?
I don't know.
I feel like I've heard the name thrown around, but I wasn't sure. So I read about what you were talking about, and I was not aware that it was called the Kessler syndrome, but I'm well aware of exactly what it is. But go ahead.
Yeah, so yeah, you kind of arrived to the
And
conclusion that
Raj, by the way, which I always forget to shout this out at the beginning of the episode, but we are super grateful for Raj, the man on the back end, who's feeding us your comments from Instagram, Facebook. Twitter, Twitch, and not TikTok. So if you're on TikTok, join us on one of the other platforms. Follow us on Facebook or YouTube, and we can see your comments. Or Rosh will share your comments with us. But Rosh is a man of the back end, and he is our fact finder, fact checker, fact finder, and he just shared a definition of Kessler syndrome. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Jack.
Yeah. So I knew the definition without knowing the name of the syndrome, so I looked it up and found it. But basically, if you think about satellites and anything that's orbiting the Earth, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
always a chance that there's going to be a collision between anything that's up there, right?
It's a
And the
very,
more
it's a
things you
very
have
low
up there,
chance. It's a very
well, I
low
mean, if you only
chance.
have two things, the chance is like 0.001 with like a lot more zeros in
Yeah, I like how you just extended your arm and then said one.
it.
For the listener, that helps quite a bit.
Well,
So,
yeah,
but Kessler theory says you have a lot of stuff in space.
and there's a chance at any time that like those two things in space could collide, and when they collide, like you get more smaller things in space. And Kessler syndrome is basically if you have enough stuff in space, you get kind of a critical mass of things where collisions become inevitable, and then once a collision happens, it's like a chain reaction where everything just like collides with each other, and then space becomes utterly unusable for anything. We won't have GPS, we won't have cell phones, we'll have no satellites whatsoever because you can't put anything up in space for more than like a couple days before it just gets obliterated by like a small bolt traveling at 14,000 miles an hour.
Yeah, imagine being hit by a bolt. Even if you are a very strong piece of metal, it is tearing through you.
Oh,
Like,
if you have a chance to watch, like NASA has a whole bunch of videos of simulations of like flecks of paint and stuff impacting an object at like orbital speeds, and it's worse than like if you shot it with a bullet.
yeah, well, I mean, it's going super, super fast. It's pretty wild to theorize and think about. And if you have ever seen a map of our orbiting satellites right now, you would be so fucking surprised how goddamn many of them there are. There is an immense number of satellites that are in the sky all the time. And the thing is, they obviously have space between them, and they're on different planes, basically different altitudes. But the theory is a plausible theory. We just keep throwing stuff out there
Well, and every
without
once in
really
a while,
thinking
you
about
have
it.
like a country like China test an anti-satellite missile where they deliberately blow up one of their own satellites, and now you take one big thing and turn it into like 50 million small things.
It's the lack of forethought. It's like when it's basically like what's happened to California and their water supply. They just keep building and developing, building, and it's not just California, and they don't really take into account the finite supply of drinkable water, and then they end up having giant fires where the fire hydrants don't work.
Well, it's a tragedy of the commons thing because if you think about it, you've got the Colorado River, which feeds most of Southern California, right?
Hmm.
And so every city, well, let's
Are you
just say like
are you relating this back to satellites, or you're just going right into California?
no, but you like I actually will relate this back to satellites, right? So the tragedy of the commons is you've got this open space that's available for everybody to use, that but is a finite resource. And since no one person owns it or manages it, everybody feels that they can just take advantage of the free stuff. And so in the case of California, you've got California and Arizona and Utah and all these states that are drawing water out of the Colorado River, and they don't care because like they're just going to take whatever water they want, and like the Colorado River no longer even reaches the sea anymore. And if you're a developer in California that buys some land and says, I'd like to build a bunch of $5 million homes on here, if you're the developer, do you care about water rights? Only so far as it requires to get a stamp of approval on your project,
Yeah.
because then you sell the homes, you made your money, and you walk away. Same thing if you're China and you decide to test an anti-satellite missile, you don't care. And if you're a satellite company and you want to launch a satellite into space, you just do it. And nobody really can stop you. And if your orbital vehicle was shoddy or your construction of the satellite was shoddy, anything goes wrong and that satellite breaks apart, well, it's not really your problem, it's everyone else's.
So I kind of fast forwarded this syndrome in my mind we do get to where mass kind of things are just disintegrating in space, basically becoming finite pieces of sand over time, and then we just have a ring around us of space
Yeah, and then
dust.
it takes decades or centuries for that to all just kind of orbitally decay, burn up in the atmosphere, and eventually, like all the orbits will be clear again.
Well, but what are
But
we going to do over the course of the hundreds or potentially thousands of years?
well, and that's the important question. That's why we want to avoid this.
And the idea of just putting up like nets in space or something like that is not like, it
Well,
sounds like a great idea, but like,
yeah,
it
but
doesn't work.
space is so freaking big, man.
I read that somewhere. Yeah,
All
space
right.
is
So
really big.
the reason why I thought of Kessler syndrome when I read about dead internet theory is I was thinking about how
Oh
like
yeah, I totally lost lost
no,
getting back to the
I
internet.
can bring this back.
Yeah,
Is imagine that all right, so you can think about the internet in general as like a common space room, but anybody can create a website. And if you have a critical mass of bots and AI generation and stuff that can respond to itself, like you just get again this feedback loop where you just get exponentially growing content that's not made by people, and eventually like the internet just becomes drowned out
yeah, and trying to
by
find something is like you're trying to Google something. You're going to get so if you search a keyword, you're going to get so many other results than really what you're looking for, and Google's not going to be able to know the difference.
well, you know,
Speaking of websites, a little self promo here because we don't self promote enough. Visit siptalkpodcast.com where you can see our most recent episodes. You can subscribe on YouTube or Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can buy us a drink and you can answer the weekly bar trivia question, to which we'll be answering last episode's question shortly. And I do want to mention something about the internet. I recently received a gift in the mail, and from time to time, some of our followers do send gifts. I appreciate them. You send them to the office. Hopefully, they don't explode. This one was a batarang
that's cool.
from the movie Batman, which
That'll go well in your '80s collection.
it's definitely going on my VHS and an outdated technology wall in the bar
All right.
area. So I just want to share that. But visit siptalkpodcast.com, answer the bar trivia question, buy us a drink. Go ahead.
Yeah. So if you think like, first of all, I would hope that everyone can agree that like the dead internet Kessler syndrome, where it just becomes an echo chamber of AI and bots, and it becomes impossible to find or identify if you're actually dealing with a human, because right now even the best generative AI chat models or whatever are still pretty shitty.
Well, listen, I'll give an example. If you go to Instagram or Twitter right now and you just log in, the chances are your top 15 posts that you see, I would say 10 of those are not going to be created by your friends, or two, an individual. It's going to be promotional or it's going to be company related posts. And, and that's just kind of the gateway into the kind of bot created posts. But the point is that humans are occupying fewer and fewer percentage points of the content creators on the internet.
All right. So where I'm going with this is right now, depending on the content that you're looking at, it's relatively easy to extremely difficult to determine whether or not it's AI. So like if you're talking with a chatbot, they're still pretty shitty. It's pretty easy to figure out that you're talking to an AI. But certain AI images are damn near impossible. And I want to thank Kevin for this reference. When I saw him over the weekend, he told me about a website. This person does not exist, and it is an AI image generator. And all it does is generate like a headshot of somebody, so like
Mm-hmm.
shoulders up,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just been trained like they've basically got two models. They've got a generator and then they've got a detector, and they kind of pit
Well,
them
I love
against
this.
each other.
Okay.
So
Uh,
you've got one model that makes faces of people, right? And
okay.
then you've got another one that's a detector, where they will sometimes put a picture of a real person and sometimes they'll put something that the generator came up, and they train the detector to detect whether there is, AI or not. And like whenever the AI fails, they like look at the logs and tweak it. So basically both the generator and the detector get
I'm
better.
getting stronger. Yeah.
Yeah. And Kevin showed me some of the pictures from that website because it generates one like you can look at a new picture on that website like every second.
Yeah.
And there would be absolutely no way that I would know. Like
Who's
you
real and
should
who's
look
not?
at like the pictures look so good. They look like just a standard professional headshot
What's the
or a
name of the website?
standard high
We'll do this.
quality selfie.
We'll do this in real time. What's the website called?
This person does not exist.
This person does not exist.com.
Just search for that. I think that's it, but hold on.
I typed .com. We'll see. All right. So I got a person. All right. She looks pretty normal. I'm looking at her hair. The hair looks pretty normal, a little out of focus in the back. But so far, it's just a picture of a person. Her nose is a little crooked, but her eyes are both aligned the same direction. I'm getting a weird vibe, though, just with a little bit of blurriness. It's just a picture, though, on this website.
Yeah, it's just a picture, no video, and it's always going to be basically shoulders up.
But do I have to guess whether she's real or not?
No, every single one of them are not.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought it was comparing to a real person.
No. The detector that they train is like not on the website. That's just like that's the part you don't see, and that's what they train against real pictures and what the generator
I'll
does.
see if I can edit this image into the podcast. But actually, I had a weird vibe that it was not a real person. But it looks. There's no reason, literally studying the picture. It's on my full screen right now, to believe that that could not be a real person.
Every single one of those pictures, if you were to tell me this is a person that I met, I'd be like, okay, what were they like?
Yeah. So
Uh,
that's going to
and
be
so
pretty strange.
the reason why I bring this up is like, sure, AI is shitty because like if you look at like most AI images, like what do they screw up the most?
Hands are big. Hands are big.
Hands, and any kind of text. So like, let's
Oh,
say you've got
the
like a
something about
moving
AI.
van.
The thing is, text is so freaking. You would think text would be such an easy thing to recreate because, like,
No,
you just have different
because
fonts and things like that.
well, yeah, but the thing is, the different fonts and the different graphical touches are all things that like we apply significance to, but think about how hard it would be to train AI to find significance in that. Because like if you see like an AI picture and like there's a moving van on like in the background that's got like some text of like Bob's moving or whatever else, but like the AI Bob's moving is no different than just like some squiggles that form something of a pattern, and so that's why you see squiggles that form something of a pattern on the box truck because the AI doesn't know,
You know,
and so
when I saw a lot of people sending out weird images with bad letters was around the holidays. A lot of people used AI to generate holiday cards, and I was like, "Come on! Like, you didn't look at that? You were comfortable enough? You were confident enough sending that out?"
Well,
Like,
and so the reason why I mention this is like not to get into a whole discussion about where AI is good and where AI is bad, like in terms of its quality or its competence, right? The reason I'm bringing it up is to say that eventually it won't be. Eventually, AI is going to be able to create any manner of things that are going to be virtually impossible for us as humans to discern from reality.
so arguably, and I use the word arguably on purpose, AI is getting better. And I actually think
It sure is.
I think the text fix is going to be like overnight. Like it'll be like 3 months, and you just realize, oh, wait a second, I haven't seen any bad AI text. And you go back and you're like, yeah, like literally 3 months ago, it just
And
changed, and
I
all
have
AI
no
text is.
idea when it will happen, but if things continue to progress and the amount of and the billions of dollars keep on pouring into this space, is not a question of whether it will happen, it's just when. And I
Well,
don't even and for the purpose of the discussion, that doesn't matter. But what does matter is like eventually we're going to be in a place where we as people are utterly powerless to be able to differentiate.
you have some good solutions marked here. What I want to bring up though, because I mentioned earlier that I said also I said arguably AI is getting better, but I mentioned earlier that AI is basically playing. The more content AI creates, the more content AI has to learn from. But the
And if
problem
they
is,
train the AI models on other AI, then yeah.
yeah, it's like playing a bad game of telephone, and very quickly it actually starts getting worse. And the issue that AI has is that it can't really learn in the real world yet, right? Because it doesn't have cameras out to the real world that it's learning in real time from.
I don't
It's
know
not
how sure you should be about that.
That's why I said yet, but it doesn't really watch a movie the way that you or I would watch a movie, but it can read the synopsis. It can note what music is in the movie. It can read the dialogue and the screen direction and things like that. It can also analyze the imagery from the movie, but it can't watch the movie the same way that we do. It's not really learning off the real world. It's learning off of content created secondhand somewhere else.
Well, and it makes me think because like There was a post on the Charleston subreddit where somebody asked AI to generate like a lighthearted roast of the city, and I read it. I was like, this is actually pretty clever. I read another one which was like generate a terrible dating profile, and it wrote something up that I actually thought was hilarious. And then I had a friend like give me some feedback on my own dating profile, and they sent me like, hey, you should try something like this. And I respond to them, look, no offense, but what you just sent me reads like really bad AI generated content. And they're like, oh, well, that's because it was.
There you go. So I read an article on popular mechanics, and they just cited a couple of studies. And one, it says a recent study published on preprint RXIV server used a language model called OPT 125M to generate text about English architecture. After training the AI on that synthetic test over and over again, the 10th model's response was completely nonsensical and had a strange obsession with jackrabbits. So they changed they trained it on English architecture, and after they let it run itself 10 times through, it was somehow interested in blurry jackrabbits.
Because it doesn't actually understand anything.
Well, it needs human input to get better at this point, and at a certain point, the argument is that it will be better than humans.
We're a
Uh,
ways off from that.
well, the thing is, the acceleration can happen pretty quickly.
Yeah, look, you're not hearing me say it will never happen, but I'm saying we're a long ways off from that,
So, and the Popular Mechanics article was titled "A New Study Says AI is Eating Its Own Tail,"
which it is.
and that's kind of what we're getting at. And but we need and some of the solutions that you have here, kind of these ear markers on AI content, is going to help curb that from happening, and hopefully help the humans, in this AI race.
Well, I also think because like if you Google anything right now, just pick a random search query and just throw it
Mhm.
into Google. What's your first response going to be now?
Well, now it's this AI generated answer
Right.
with
So
citations, but even that is like tough to.
right.
I
So
like to just go to the citation websites and pull that data
so
myself.
the problem is like so I actually did one of these a while back, and the only answer that I got that was actually decent was from the AI. It was asking. There was an event that I was going to go to in like 2 weeks, and it canceled. And I was like, "Why did it cancel?" And I couldn't find anything in terms of like news articles or anything like
Google
that.
told you that it was canceled.
No, no, no. I found out that it was canceled when I got a refund on my credit card statement. I was like, "What? Okay, I guess it's canceled. I would like to know why." And I could not like when I went to the events place, they didn't give a reason. I couldn't find anything anywhere, but Google actually gave its AI gave a good answer. And so the problem is, I don't know for sure if that's the right answer. Like I just thought that it was a pretty plausible answer. And the reason why I say this is like there have been here's one of my favorite examples. Somebody says, "Google, I'm thinking about committing suicide. Can you please help?" Right? And you know what the AI answer
Oh
was?
no, that's terrible.
You know what the AI response was?
It interpreted it as, "Can you please help me commit
Like,
suicide?" By the way,
yeah,
we don't
here
endorse
are
suicide.
here.
Hold on, we're a little legal disclaimer: we don't endorse suicide. We're against suicide. If you feel suicidal, call the suicide hotline.
Well, yeah, I'm
Go
telling
ahead.
this story because the answer the AI gave was like, "Here are some nearby bridges,"
Yeah,
as opposed
that's
to
bad. That's bad.
yeah, as opposed to here's the National Suicide Hotline or here's mental health clinics because AI doesn't understand. And so if you don't understand, then saying I'm thinking about committing suicide, how can you help? Here's some nearby bridges is a perfectly valid answer.
Yeah, terrible. All right, we're
But the point is like is if I'm googling about something that I don't know anything about and the first answer that I get in AI is wrong and I don't know anything about it, how can I know that that's wrong?
well, and that's the issue about critical thinking that I think you and I do very well at, but most people don't have this.
What I'm saying is that even with what I consider to be well practiced critical thinking skills, there are times where like if I'm relying purely on AI, my critical thinking skills are completely like annulled.
Well, that's why I like to hit this. Luckily, Google gives you an answer, but it gives you the little citation links. All right, we're halfway through. I want to hit this bar trivia question, which I know our one listener has been waiting a month to hear the answer for. And the
I also
question
know
is,
for a fact I don't remember anything about it.
yeah, I didn't remember it either. And actually, I started reading it. I was like, damn, this was fucking long. I don't know if I'm going to know the answer, but I started reading it just now. I remember the answer. This was a pretty easy one. And I actually have a super easy one, also involves money for tonight. So if you struggled with this one, you will definitely get tonight's. Just wait until the end of the episode, and I'll give you the new bar trivia question. A popular attraction at the World's exhibition was a sealed glass box containing 500,000 American $1 bills. This is a fundraiser for $10 a ticket. A person could guess how many bills were contained in the box. At the end of the exhibition, when the sealed box was broken and they counted the bills, there was only 470,000. Now, we're restricted online. Sid Shady was responsible for enclosing the money.
I know why.
And when questioned by Shadow, Shady said that he personally counted each bill by hand. To be sure, he added, I counted them twice by hand during the 2 days before the box was sealed. I could have been out by $80 or $90, but not $30,000, he protested. Shadow said, Shady, you're lying. I know for a fact. How can he be so sure? Do you know the answer?
I do.
Okay, come on.
Um, it it is not possible within the time frame that Shady said he counted. If he counted each bill individually,
Well,
it would take
that's what he
about
asserted.
11 days.
That's what he asserted, was that he counted
Yeah.
half a
Now, if they
million
were in
dollars
like
twice.
packets of like, like a thousand packets or something, then he could easily have done it. But if he said he counted each bill individually, then yeah, it would have taken him about, well, 5.5 days, but he said he did it
He
twice,
said
so
he did
about
it
11
twice.
days.
Yeah, so there's
And that's
no.
assuming 1 bill per second, not sleeping.
Oh, speaking of, we should do a whole episode on the Barclay marathons. I am loving that. Did you do any research on that yet?
No,
All
because
right.
it was mentioned on Saturday night, and my memory from that night was, well, progressively foggier.
All right. So let's talk about some potential solutions to the internet eating itself. And we basically just have full
Well,
on
it's a
Tesla
way,
send them
yeah,
across
a
the
way
internet.
to avoid some of the worst effects of the dead internet syndrome.
I'm all ears.
All right, so
And this is pretty standard stuff that's already in the works, but there's still some protest on it, and we may be a little too deep already for some of these
well,
things.
yeah, because I don't know if I put this in my notes, but if I didn't, I should have. Which is, here are ways that we can avoid it that are never going to happen.
That's kind of what I was getting at with some of this stuff, and it's a shame because it kind of needs to happen, and it needs to happen now, before it's too late. But go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll
All
let
right.
you.
So the first one is require all bot generated content to be marked as such. Like if it doesn't already exist, like make a metadata field for like a picture or a video or a sound or whatever. Have a metadata field that's basically just a check or an uncheck for whether it was made by AI. And if you don't know what metadata is, it's basically like internal data to a file that tells you things about it. So you think about like an MP3. Like, how does your MP3 player know that the name and the artist of the song? Well, it's reading the metadata in the MP3.
Yeah, it's
And
also going to have a time created. It's going to have a lot of information just about the file.
yeah, and so add a toggler field in the metadata of all files to just indicate whether or not it was generated by AI. It would not increase the file size. It would increase the file size by like a kilobyte.
Kilobyte. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I was just reminded the other day that a floppy disk was 1.4 megabytes.
Yep.
That's wild. That's wild.
Uh, I mean, I remember when I was a kid, like we bought a new computer and we were blown away by the fact that it had a 1 gigabyte hard drive. We're like, that's so much space.
Yeah,
Because the
one.
hard drive I was using before was 20 megabytes.
Yeah, 1 gigabyte.
Yeah, now it's like my phone holds like 20 or 40 times as much as that computer did.
Yeah, I definitely. My phone is at least a terabyte. I know that for a fact.
All right. So the next one is like make sure like have all AI videos and images have a watermark in them
Yeah,
that
yeah. The watermark I think is going to be much tougher because it's distracting. It's overlaid. Um,
well, here's what you can do actually is did you know that every
oh,
printer?
actually, I know exactly where you're going at, and I'm cool with this. Go ahead, but it doesn't work for It doesn't work for the general consumer though. But go ahead.
No, but like I'm gonna give this example just to show that there's a continuum here,
Yeah,
where
go
it
ahead.
doesn't have to be a distracting
I, I
watermark.
I know what you're getting at because
Yeah.
I've
So
tried
basically,
copying money before.
yeah. So
We got this great printer in my office. I was like, I wonder if you could stick some money through that, how it would come out. It didn't.
but yeah, every printer will basically print um like to a human an invisible code that identifies that printer. So like if somebody ever tries printing something illegal like money, like it can be traced to that printer. And yeah, like good luck finding it with your eye. I know I couldn't. But
But also money. Usually, most of the more modern printers will not allow you to uh, copy money.
oh yeah, they'll just straight up like
They
refuse,
shut
which
down. They shut down. Yeah.
yeah, which is really interesting. I wonder how they program that.
I thought about it quite a bit, but I was just like, man, this printer is badass. What happens if we put $100 bill on the glass? And it just locked up.
Yeah, but I still think that having a small, unobtrusive watermark on any video or image created by AI, and you can even like
Well, you could
make it as
obscure
a
it quite a
branding
bit.
thing, like
Yeah,
created by Midjourney or whatever. I don't care,
yeah, there's
but
going to be
make it
so
so
many.
that people can immediately recognize AI without having to do a high level detective work.
Yeah,
Um, the next one is basically for all search engines have an opt out function where you can say I don't want AI to assist with this, or or do not show me AI generated content in my search results.
yeah, but it also the search engine is going to have to be able to uh, know what is AI generated and what's not.
Well, that's where suggestion 1 and 2 come into play with the
Well,
metadata.
exactly. But all these things have to align for Plan
Yeah,
3
I
to
think
work
if
out.
you stay within my system, it's achievable.
Is this your system or have you found this somewhere else?
These are things I came up with on my
Oh,
own.
okay. All right. Because
Like,
I
I'm
googled
not going to
that.
pretend like other people haven't come up with these ideas, but like this is something that like late one night I was just like, I want to write about this, and I was like, what are some things that we could do? So if other people came up with it, that just means that like I'm not as smart as I think I am, but most people know that.
All right, go ahead.
Um, so I'm going to get out of line here. So like the Call of Duty cheating solution. Are you familiar with this?
I know nothing about Call. That's where
It's a
it's where you're
shooter.
playing Modern Warfare or something, and you shoot each other, or you shoot
Yeah,
bad guys.
and so
Do some people
um,
ever want to be the bad guys, or everybody's good guys? They just shoot each other.
I mean, if it's online multiplayer, it doesn't really matter. You're just shooting at other people.
Mm,
But
mm.
um, like a lot of these games, especially shooters, have problems with cheating because like it's very easy to design a program to fix somebody's aim because you can just easily identify like the enemy and their hitbox, and then like when you press fire have like the input snap to like the head
Mhm.
or whatever, right? That's very easy to program, and it's miserable to play against because it's
They're always going
impossible
to
to win
win.
against
Yeah,
somebody
yeah,
like that.
exactly.
So what I think it was Call of Duty, but I might be wrong. But there was one of these games where they had a big cheating problem, and they detected a bunch of these people. But instead of banning them, what they did is they basically had servers reserved just for the cheaters. So if you were detected as a cheater, you could only play in like the cheater pool. So now you're up against only cheaters. And so yeah, it was just like segregating the bad actors
Yeah,
without them knowing it.
I think that's kind of a cool idea. I didn't know that they didn't know it, but
No, they did. Yeah, the cheaters weren't
I'm
told.
sure they were pissed.
A lot of the cheaters probably didn't know
Well,
because very few skilled players will cheat. The players that will cheat
well, the thing
are
about in order for you to get skilled, you have to hone those skills, and you can't hone skills when you're cheating.
yeah, cheating doesn't help you get better at a game.
Exactly.
So like
It
the
helps you get
high
better at
skill
cheating.
players, it's pretty rare for people to cheat that are elite at a game. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, it sure does, but it's like you see a lot more cheating in the bottom 10 to 20% of a skill bracket than the top 5 to 1%.
I watched a movie last year. I was airplane or something. It's called like Gran Turismo or something, where this guy who played the Gran Turismo PlayStation game became like a high end tournament player and won a tournament, and then he went on to train at a Gran Turismo school, and then became one of the top race car drivers. which I thought was an awesome. It was a cool
Yeah, it's a
story.
little bit of an exaggeration. Like the guy did all right, and the fact like the best racing simulations do a very good job of teaching you how to drive a car fast. And
I mean,
so
it's not going to be the same as driving a car, but you're going to develop some of the skills that you need for driving a car. I was sharing that because it, had he been cheating, he would have been wildly disadvantaged when it actually came to getting behind the wheel.
right. Yeah, it would have been very easy to detect. But yeah, basically if we could have like if you have bots that are detected as bad actors or bots that just respond to bots and AI that just responds to AI, the way that you can break this feedback loop is just sequestering them and making those pages like have them basically put them at the kids table.
Yeah, or the cheaters table.
Right. Um, and the last part is like you need to have some kind of enforcement, and this is where all of my ideas break down.
Well, and this is yeah. Well, this is the current issue that we're dealing with. Go ahead.
Is you need to have some kind of fine enforcement ability where you have
A
the
monetary fine, you're saying?
monetary fine for people who develop these things, who use these things, and like start it off with like the first one, two, or three times, or just a warning, right? And then have escalating fines.
Yeah, the problem is it's very difficult to track down bad actors, and like it's not like your bank account is linked to your content creating account,
Well,
which is
also
linked to your
think about
AI
it like
account.
this. Let's say the US passes a law let's say that somebody in the US government is like, "Yeah, James is pretty smart. We'll do all of these things," right? And they actually listen to me. Well, we can't enforce that for the AI bot farms and propaganda coming out of Russia. Like
Exactly.
we can tell all these Russian hackers pay all these fines and we're disconnecting their internet and they're just be like, "What are you going to do?"
До свидания. Um,
Right?
so yeah, I mean that's the problem where is this is getting out of hand a little faster than we can regulate it. And this is a unique thing because we have regulated a lot of things in the past, right? Like the FDA regulates things, things like stem cells, like a lot of things we've regulated the hell out of before they became super prevalent. This is something that's kind of got a mind and a vehicle of its own,
Well, you
super
know, part of
decent
the reason
like stem cells, to a degree need big research facilities and big budgets. AIs don't necessarily need either, and I mean to a
well,
degree
the
they
good
do.
models do.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But not what we're talking about.
Well, you know what? I'm going to propose to you an answer as to why AI and tech is underregulated. And it's, to me, screamingly obvious.
Go ahead.
How old are the people writing the laws regulating?
Well, that's I mean that's true. You got a bunch of 70 and 80-year-old people regulating laws
Like, these
and
are people
creating
that
legislation.
I bet the majority of Congress, if you were to say, here's a computer that's shut off, I want you to turn it on, log in, and send me an email. You know how many of them could do it?
No, I mean, listen, I work with young people and middle-aged people all day, every day, and you would be surprised. And the thing is, I don't have like an opinion as to like their intellectual capability because I work with a lot of smart people that are just really dumb when it comes to doing simple computer things. But like these old people making laws about shit they don't understand is the problem.
Well, part of it is like, yeah, you're going to get one of two results here. The first is that they don't regulate it at all because they don't understand it.
Hmm.
And then the other, which I think would probably be worse, but I don't know by how much, is they regulate it poorly because, again, they don't understand it.
Yeah, well, I mean, both of them, yeah. But then there's like, and also there's over-regulation, which could be a version of poorly regulating it. Where if they just
I think the
ban,
danger of overregulation is far less than underregulation or misregulation. I'm
well,
not saying it doesn't exist. I just think that that's the least likely of the outcomes.
I think the problem that we're going to face with AI in the U.S. is that there are going to be other countries and other groups that are far ahead of our AI, and we're not even going to understand. I mean, AI can be such
Well,
a
that's why the stock
nefarious.
market shit itself massively on Monday.
Why is that?
Because China released an AI program that was way better than anybody was expecting, and people were just like, they did something this high quality for that little money, and everyone's like, we are so far behind. If like what would be perceived as like relatively lower effort on their part, creating something that I guess people thought was good. I don't know. I don't use AI stuff for anything. So,
I
but you haven't heard of DeepSeek?
I think I heard of it over the last week. Is that the Chinese version?
Yeah, and that like it basically it got like debuted on Monday, and then any company even relate like remotely related to tech like lost like 10 to 15% because they're just like, yeah, I think like
But that's
Nvidia alone
exactly
lost
what I'm
like six
talking about.
hundred billion dollars in net in market cap.
Like literally overnight, you have a game changer just debut,
Right.
and that's what we're going to see more and more of. But it's going to get very weird and Terminatory. I think. I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about robotics and just how robotics has not followed the same trajectory as AI has.
Well, that's because it's more difficult.
It is more difficult, and they say the porn and sex pot industry is what's going to pull through the robotics industry.
I don't think so.
Oh, why? Because geeks don't have money.
No, it's not that. It's I
But are
think
you
that
familiar with the theory I'm talking about?
well, yeah, because you can look at like porn's been the driver of like a number of technological
Well, the point
innovations.
is the demand for synthetic uh, fuck dolls is going to make them more and more realistic.
And
And
I'm gonna disagree on that one because while I clearly there
it's
will
not my
always
theory; it's just a theory I've heard. I think it's very funny.
yeah, but like while clearly there is always gonna be a market for that kind of stuff, there already is. Like I think the vast majority of people like that would potentially be targeted to buy some advanced AI powered human like dating robot sex bot. Like the
It's
point
very
is like
obscure. This population is very small.
well, I think the people that are coming up with this stuff have the idea that it's going to be a lot more popular in demand than it actually is because the whole point of being in a relationship or having physical intimacy with somebody else is that it's another person. Like that is the key core
Sure.
aspect of it.
Well, so maybe you're less on the spectrum than you think. Other people may disagree. But I agree with you. I completely agree
No,
with you.
I'm identifying this from a definitional standpoint of like the draw of being in a relationship, the draw of physical intimacy with somebody else is the fact that you have another person that wants to be with you. That's why even in places where prostitution is
Well,
legal, it's not used very much.
I would disagree. I think that some people are used to people not wanting to be with them, but there are other things that they're looking for that they can't
Okay.
achieve. And but either way, somehow
No.
I'm making the pro argument for the robotic sex industry,
Well,
and you're making the con or anti argument against it.
have you been anywhere? Have you been anywhere where prostitution was legal?
I don't think so. I don't know.
I have.
And it's not a super popular thing.
Well, no, I've been to a place that in some ways is kind of like the capital of legalized
Is
prostitution.
this Amsterdam?
Yes.
Okay.
And while I was there and I walked around the red light district, and the red light district, if you have any image of your head of it being like super seedy and dangerous or whatever, that's not it at all. It's actually like there's bars, there's restaurants, there's museums, it's open air, families are walking around, and then there are women in windows. But like while I was there, I had no desire to make any purchases. I was like, this is interesting, but
Well, purchases or did they not allow you to rent for a short period of time?
sure, rentals. Like I had no interest in it
Simply
because
leasing.
that to me it's not real. Like yes, it's a real person that's really doing things, but it's not real in the same way that it is like when somebody actually
It has
desires
to, you like the challenge and you like the reciprocation, and when that's not there, it's empty. And yeah, I fully understand your argument. I think, but
so
I
like
was
yeah, if sex bot technology gets better, will they sell more? Yeah, but I think there's a pretty hard cap and it's pretty low in terms of the number of people that would consider doing it.
yeah. Well, now,
No, I'm saying it. I'm saying
listen,
forever.
people already at record numbers are not having sex.
Right, but
So
that's not because it's not available. Like it's because they are valuing other things.
All
Like,
right. Go ahead.
people want connection, and sex bots will never be able to offer that.
Outside of the
Constitutionally, they're
physical
incapable.
connection. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. All right, let me hit this week's Bard trivia question. This is a fictitious scenario, but it's related to a real scenario. I just kind of extrapolated some information, changed it up, but I just had the thought in my head, and I thought it was funny. So here is episode 263 Bard trivia question. My sister and I happened upon $96. She found a $50 bill, two 20s, a 5, and one $1 bill. So she gave me the 50, leaving her with 46. I told her that I had $4 more than she did, and she said, "Hey, next time I see you, you just give me the $4." And I said, "Sister, that solves nothing." And the question is, why does that solve nothing? Read it one more time. My sister and I happened upon $96, a 50, two 20s, one $5 bill, and one $1 bill. $96. She gave me the 50, leaving her with 46. I told her that I was overpaid by $4, and she said, "Don't worry about it. Next time I see you, just give me the $4." And I said, "That does not solve the problem." The question is, why?
I know why,
Obviously,
but I'm also an accountant.
this is a pretty easy one, but this reminds me of the bellhop that had to bring the money back, and he only
Yep,
gave three $1 bills.
similar idea.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was like a dozen episodes ago, but I like that one. That stumped a lot of people. Stumped a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say anything because we need to wait a week to give you the
No,
answer.
yeah, hopefully we'll. Yeah, I foresee our schedule picking back up. Um, let's see. What else did I have in my notes here? The Atlantic article titled "Things Get Strange When AI Starts Training Itself." What happens if AI becomes less intelligible? Um, that was an interesting article. But there are some things in the Popular Mechanics article about how Chat GPT has been radically, like, racially and gender biased, as far as basically profiling all Muslim men as terrorists.
Well, so the whole idea of like AI training off of itself, for some reason, it makes me think of this story. So at a mental health hospital, this is many, many years ago, the doctors
How
had,
long were you in for?
unfortunately, not long enough.
Uh,
The doctors had 3 patients. Each one of those patients believed that they were the reincarnation of Jesus. And no matter what the doctors did during the therapy sessions that they had with the patients individually, they could not convince them that this was not the case. Do you know what the doctors eventually did?
put them all in the same room.
They put all 3 in the same room.
This is a true story.
Yes.
And what
As
happened?
far as I know,
And what happened?
I think all 3 of them realized that like the other 2 were crazy and started to think like, okay, maybe I need to rethink this. It introduced doubt in a way that the doctors weren't able to do otherwise.
Interesting. I'll see if I can look this up.
I mean, it all for I don't know why, but it also makes me think of an experiment 3 psychologists did, where each one of them faked the symptoms of a mental illness and got themselves admitted to a mental hospital. And then, as soon as
Oh,
they
and
were admitted,
they couldn't get out.
yeah, as soon as they were admitted, they started acting normal and said to the doctors, "Look, like I was just faking all of that to get here. I'm actually like not diagnosed with anything. I would
Let
like to
me in.
leave."
Yeah, crazy. That's pretty
And it was a
crazy.
nightmare for them to get out.
I've heard of a slightly different note, but I heard of a proposed reality show where 15 guys are kind of put in an island, and they have to identify which is the gay guy, and
And
they're
none
all
of them are gay.
none of them are gay.
Yeah.
So here's the study. In 1950s, psychologist Milton Rokek conducted an experiment with 3 paranoid schizophrenic patients who believed they were Jesus Christ. The patients were forced to live together in a mental hospital for 2 years. The experiment was the subject of Rokek's 1964 books, The Three Christs of Ypsilanti, uh, and the 2020 movie Three Christs. I'd love to watch that movie. On that note, we are out of time. Thank you for joining our podcast. SipTalk. Visit our website, siptalkpodcast.com. Buy us a drink, and we will see you next time. Thank you for joining. Adios. All right, you made it to the end. Don't forget to visit siptalkpodcast.com, subscribe to the podcast, and we will see you next time.
Why don't you go ahead?
It's a lady at 46 South Road. 46 South Road.
Station 1 call, retone that please. 10-4. Captain 4 will be going to that location also. This is 19, is that correct?
Sorry, what last four?
Right, 24 miles, and I'll retone there. There's a cop 18524 mile, station 1, there's a station 1 cop, 8524 mile, station 1.